welcome along to AFTV. We've got a very special video today where I've got a legendary agent in the building, Mr. Sky Andrew. Listen, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem, Robbie.
You know how many years I've been looking and seeing the work that you've been doing. Before, you know, and we're going to go on to talk about a little bit about it, you brought Sol Campbell to Arsenal.
Risk my life.
Is your life still at risk? I hope not, right? Right, but even before that, I used to see you on TV and that, and as a young black guy, I used to go, a black man who's an agent. I'd never really seen that before in football. How hard was it for you to get into that industry? Because even now, I know quite a few agents, but there's a few more black guys getting into it, but there's not a lot. How hard was it to get into it when you came in?
Well, I learnt my craft because I was a table tennis player and I had to manage myself. So I learned how to deal with the press, do sponsorships and
He's a very good table tennis player as well.
Communicate with the media. I was all right. I'll give you a game for a Friday.
You played for England and stuff like that, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to Olympics in '88. So me and Sol Campbell met at Liverpool National Sports Centre where they had the best 14-year-olds. And they trained and they ate there, slept there, went to school there. And I was part of the England table tennis team and we used to go there once every month. So one day we was in their dinner queue, because Sol used to like his dinner queues. He used to go there, come back for seconds. And we were talking and I said, where are you from? He said, Stratford. I said, I'm from Stratford. And then we worked out that our families lived across the road from each other virtually. Wow. So we remained friends. And then one day I went to see my mum in Stratford. And I see this guy on a BMX and he's pedaling and his knees are going up to the handlebars. He's going to hate me telling this story. And I went, Sol. And he went, oh, right, Sky, yeah. And then he stopped pedaling. This is a 17-year-old guy who's gone back to Spurs and everyone thought he was a prospect, but literally he was in Stratford on a bike. Anyway, we got speaking and we became friends. And then he sort of didn't have a trust for agents. So he said to me, do you think you could look after him? I said, yeah, why not? So for the first 3 or 4 years, I looked after him for nothing. I just did it part-time. I used to take him around places, introduce him to people, build his profile. Obviously, he was a bit shyer than me, so I would introduce him to people. And then I always used to say to people, this guy is going to be one of the best defenders in the world. And it wasn't because he was an unbelievably technical player. It was because of his professionalism and his attitude and his desire, which is what I look for now in players. So suffice to say, he went on to do quite well. He was in and out of the Spurs team. They were playing him left back and he used to get really annoyed. And one summer he just went away, came back and he was a different beast. He came back and Ozzy put him in the first team. My first ever chat with a coach was with Ozzy Ardiles. So I go into Spurs, I go up the stairs, I go past Alan Sugar's office and he's doing like this. And he looked at me, just nodded at me like that. Walked along, went into Ozzy's office. Ozzy was like, hello, how are you? How are you? I heard you play table tennis. They started telling me about he played for Argentina under 15s and all this. I said, Ozzy, listen, in them days I think it was up to 21. I said, Ozzy, listen, I'll pay you. I'll give you 20 start up to 21. No way. He banged his hand on the table. I'll pay you 100 grand right now. So we had a bit of banter, but he loved Sol. He loved Sol. And to be fair, we love Ozzy, right? Ozzy was a great character. So as soon as I got into the industry, I realized that all you're in control of is the way in which you conduct yourself. Yeah. So I say to Sol, you just care about how you conduct yourself. And when you sign a contract, you have to honor it. And you honor it unless someone comes with something else. And in this upside down world of football, I've seen, realised that people are not interested in you being honourable. People just want you to do what they want you to do. If they want you to sign, sign. If they don't want you to sign, don't sign. If they want you to go, go. So, and the fans get involved on that roller coaster. But anyway, I said to him, just honour your contract. So that's why he eventually honoured his contract, because in his mind, he was honouring his contract unless someone came to him. Yeah, unless someone came to him and said, look, we got this contract and we're getting these players and et cetera, et cetera.
Now listen, how did you, to take Sol Campbell, captain of Tottenham Hotspur.
Look at his face. He's smiling. He's
Yeah, I
got
am
this
enjoying
like,
this,
weird
right?
little look at this.
But no, you know what? To take him from Tottenham to Arsenal, you as an agent, to first of all to even contemplate doing a deal like that, knowing the magnitude of the upset it's going to cause the Tottenham fans. Obviously, we're going to be delighted as Arsenal fans. We're getting a quality player and we're taking a player from our biggest rivals. I mean, did you ever think to yourself, nah, we can't do this. We can't go from Tottenham to Arsenal. It's just going to be... I mean, that must have took a lot of mental toughness. Number one for Sol Campbell, but also for you, organising that deal.
Now, here's the thing. You know, we didn't jump too many hurdles. The thing is that he was my friend and I came into the industry to protect him. And players don't get protected these days. Players have got a whole load of people around them that are not protecting them,
Very true.
but who are getting as much as they can out of the game.
Very true.
But from my point of view, it was to shut the noise, close the noise, and let him make a decision based on football. I think a danger for a club is if a player is at a club and it's not too bad, but they're not sure about what to do in the future. And you see that now with Mbappe. You know, Mbappe's not sitting at home in squalor thinking, oh my God, where am I going to get my next drink from? He's at PSG. So he's run out his contract because he wasn't sure what he wanted to do in the future. Sol Campbell was just someone that wanted to win. And so because he wanted to win, he waited to see how the club was going to develop. And it is as simple as that. You see, agents want to do a deal today, a deal tomorrow, a deal the next week, because that's how you get more money. Yeah, it was a risk for me because he when he had 2 years left, 1 year, he could have said to me, thanks, mate, but I'm going to get another agent. So the reason why he ran out his contract was because he literally wanted to see that the club could be successful. And that was all he was waiting for. There wasn't no decision about going to Arsenal because I obviously got him all the information. But we waited until April when something came out on Sky Sports saying that he was leaving. He never said he was leaving. It came out on Sky Sports and said that he was leaving. After that, it was done. Then he decided, okay, then we need to start speaking to clubs. I don't think you'll ever get a player that was chased by Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, both the Milans. You know, everybody wanted him because he was a top defender and he was on a Bosman. So I got him all the information, and then when we sat down and spoke about it, he would talk to me and I would listen to him and I'd say to him, what do you think? And he'd be like, well, do they really need me? Blah, blah, blah. And then we started to look at it and think, well, Arsenal desperately need a centre-back, but he still wasn't sure that was the right move, because I wasn't. When Barcelona are offering double than whatever anyone else can earn, and it's such an amazing club, it's not easy to make that decision. So as the days tick down, I'm speaking to all of the clubs. Obviously, the legend that is David Dean is just on my case. Once he realised we were speaking to people, he's like, well, you've got to speak to us. And he kept on and on, and then, you know, Arsene got involved and said, don't make a decision based on hate, make a decision based on football. It went right up until the day before he signed. We were still like thinking about, is this the right move? But he worked out that it was the best place for him to go and play football. And so I don't think this will ever happen again in football. He turned up at the training ground and nobody knew he was there.
I know. I mean, I always remember it to this day. I remember it. I was in complete shock. I was like, Sol Campbell at Arsenal. I couldn't believe it.
Everyone thought it was Richard Wright, the goalkeeper.
Yeah. I don't know how you managed to keep that a secret.
Well, it wasn't about keeping it a secret. It was about the lastminute.com scenario of the night before, okay, let's do it. And then once we said to the big boss at Arsenal, let's do it, he said, right, we're doing it tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
We want to make sure it got done.
Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So...
did you sleep that night?
No. No, because I was...
You're thinking about all the scenarios, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, the scenarios. And a lot of people had attached themselves to me just to find out where Sol was going, because it became a bigger and bigger story. Stories on the back pages. everybody got involved. A lot of people were saying negative things to him and me, you know, even before a decision was made. So the night before, when we said, okay, this is the best place for you to go and play football, I just remember going to the training ground and then and him being there, and it was like eerie. You know, Arsene and David Dean were obviously chuffed to think, you know, we've done it. And Arsene was just like, this is just football. David Dean was a little bit more cute than that. But me and David Dean used to walk up and down streets with his dogs when he was trying to convince me to, because nobody could speak to Sol. And this is what players these days have got to understand, that Sol was imperious, yeah? He did everything properly, and then when it come down to decisions, people had to speak to me. I gave him the messages and the information, and then if they wanted to speak to him, it'd have to be more or less a done deal. So literally, I mean, I got so much respect for David Dean because he's a very clever guy.
Yeah, very.
He knew
good.
how to work with Arsene. He knew how to get to me. So he decided, right, we want this player. We've got to do it like this. And he would talk to me, and me and him would talk. And I never used to give that much away. He used to explain to me about the club and the family. And the thing with David Dean is that if you're on his side, if you're in his family, then you're better off doing that. I'd rather be on David Dean's family than not on David Dean's family. And so on the day, the moment Sol came out, I mean, there is footage that has never been shown of Sky Sports and people's cameras. They're shaking, going, you know, swearing and saying it's Sol Campbell. And then he came out, and then the moment I switched my phone back on, the abuse.
I was going to say that,
The
right?
abuse
Now,
was unbelievable.
I was going to say that is that you said right at the start, you protected Sol Campbell.
Yeah.
Right? Your job, you saw as an agent, was to protect Sol Campbell, and it's been well documented, all the abuse he's been through over the years. Even to this day, a lot of Tottenham fans, they still hate him because of the move he made. Who protected you?
No, I was
Because
protected.
come on, you as well must have been a hated figure amongst Tottenham fans. You must have been a hated figure, you know, even amongst some neutrals saying, well, how have you done that? Why have you made Sol Campbell make that move? Who protects you?
No one. And the funny thing is that no one ever understood the way in which I protected Sol Campbell until I won an award from Barclays Bank. It was called a Barclays Bank Man of Merit Award. I was there with my mum, and Trevor Phillips went on stage and he said, you see that guy there? He protected his client. He protected Sol Campbell. That was the only time anyone had ever said it. Because what people forget is that I would have, me personally as commission, I would have earned double at Inter Milan, and I would have earned triple at Barcelona. And there's a lot of agents going around saying I'm an agent, but I wonder how many of them would have guided their client towards a football decision and not a financial decision. So I took a lot of stick. One of the worst moments I had was I was walking down Loughton High Street, and this guy started walking towards me, and he was calling me a gooner, see you next Tuesday, and he was walking, and I was going to walk past him, and he stood in front of me, and he was breathing heavy like this, calling me a gooner, see you next Tuesday. And then at that moment, he had something in his pocket, and I thought, wow, you know, what's going to happen here? And then a guy come out of Boots with his two daughters, and this guy was calling me a gooner, C-U-N-T. And then the guy came out and said, don't use that word in front of my girls. Next thing, they've started arguing, and I just walked off.
So yeah, some hairy moments, man. But listen, you've been in this industry for years and years and years, right? And done big deals like that. It's changed a lot, hasn't it, over the years?
Yeah.
What do you think now? I mean, the transfer. I don't think, you know, I do a show called Transfer Daily here on AFTV. It's one of our most watched shows during the summer.
Why is that?
Where every day what I do is I look at all the transfers, all the players that have been linked with Arsenal, and I kind of give my overview on it.
Yeah.
Whether I think that's a good link, poor link, you know. And that show is so popular because people are so invested in transfers now.
Yeah, they are.
It's become, you know, a bit like in America, the draft system.
Yeah.
I think our transfer window is becoming like that, where in the summer and in January, everybody's into transfers. Every kid now knows the stats of players because of games like FIFA and stuff like that. So everybody now knows everything about players. There's no sort of unknown players no more because it's changed. It's an industry now.
Yeah.
And as soon as the transfer window opens, every fan is like, right, Arsenal, you need to get this guy.
Yeah.
Get this striker. Get Vlahovic.
Yeah.
Get this. He scored this and that. They know all his stats, everything. So there's a lot of pressure now on clubs to bring in players.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of pressure on you guys as agents to connect with these players.
Yeah.
And the whole industry is just like, there's agents that are attached to clubs.
Yeah.
And what do you think of the industry now in comparison to when you first started off?
First of all, deregulating the agency business was ridiculous because then it meant everyone could be an agent as long as you didn't have a criminal record. But the thing about football now is that what the fans get told and the communication to the fans, because apart from the players, the fans are the lifeblood of football.
100%.
So what fans believe is that if you don't spend money, then you're not ambitious. But here's the great thing about football is that at some stage of a player's career, it's all about opinions. Arsenal should be...
Very subjective.
Yeah. Arsenal should be in the market for every talent that is out there before they prove that they can play at another level. Kante, Mahrez, all of these players, Arsenal would have known about them. And so what the fans have got to understand is that it's not about spending money, it's about recruitment. And spending money doesn't mean you're going to get what you pay for.
True.
So under Arsene knew the French market, so he knew to get players before they hit the big heights. Petit, Vieira, Henry, right? So many players, they even Anelka. Some of the Arsenal fans don't like Anelka because he played up and Arsenal still got their 22 million to Real Madrid. So the great thing about football is that the level playing field is advice and decision making. And so what the club like Arsenal need to do is to have the best people to give them the best advice and decision making. But what happens is there is a desire to spend money. And for agents want money spent a lot of the time.
Yeah,
So
because the more money to spend on a player, the bigger your commission, right?
So they can get in there and start saying this and that and get in a commission. Some clubs get swayed by a player's form on a short-term basis. I mean, that's a bloody nightmare as well, yeah, because a player doesn't become a bad player overnight. Martin O'Neill always used to get good players at their worst moment, right? So that skill is an important skill because otherwise what you're going to do, you're only going to buy players once they've proved themselves and whilst they're in form, and then everybody knows about them and everybody gets involved.
But are these clubs now under pressure? Clubs like Arsenal under pressure to get those sort of players? Because as I said, you said Arsenal used to know the French market, and in those days, we didn't have all those stats and facts that are readily available now to even someone like me, any fan, right? So now all of a sudden, the clubs are under pressure because we know about this French guy who's killing it in the French league and he scored a load of goals. We know about this guy in Spain who's doing brilliantly. So we're now looking at our club. We're saying, come on, Arsenal, go and get him, man. You know what I mean? We need a striker. Go and get Vlahovic. Doesn't matter if it's 70, 80 million. Go and get him. That's the pressure that we're heaping on them as well now.
Yeah, the fans are heaping the pressure on once the player has performed, right? And the fact that stats are so readily available makes it less of an excuse to not know what players are doing. Now you've got stats. Now you can look at, I mean, if you look at Liverpool bought Jordan Henderson on stats. Kamoli, who was there at the time, they looked at his stats and like, wow, this guy is running and closing players down. So a club, a big club, if they go to a player at the right time where they see it as a step up, then you've got more chance of getting that player as against waiting for them to blow up. And then you say, well, I'm putting my hat in the ring. And then other clubs are, well, we're putting our hat in the ring. And players now some players will are about Arsenal because they're like, well, Arsenal not playing Champions League. They're not guaranteed of playing Champions League. So finding the best people is what it's about now. And that's with players and that's with clubs. Players have to take responsibility now. They are small industries themselves. There's so much money in the game, but they need to distribute the money available in the right way. Players need to hire a manager, pay them 200, if you're in the Premier League, pay them 200 grand a year, you're looking after me. Pay a PA 50 grand a year, I'm just saying these numbers, you are looking after me. And then players then can get involved in all different things, because whilst you're relevant, there's so many things you can do. People talk about, why aren't there more black managers? Why aren't there more black coaches, etc., etc.? When you're representing a player, you have to know where they've come from and you have to know where they're going to go. Some players you can see from an early age, but they are capable of being a coach, of being a manager. And when they're relevant, that's when you have to start developing and laying the nest. But people around them ain't bothered. They ain't bothered.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've seen with certain players. Been privileged to meet a lot of players from various different clubs, and you always see a lot of guys around certain players, and you're like, you think, I go away sometimes thinking, who's that guy there? And a lot of times they're making decisions and they're discussing money, and I always get the impression sometimes with certain players that some of these guys around them, they're only in it for they're not really interested in the player, they're in it for themselves.
So the thing is that there's the football and there's the legacy. And a lot of people around footballers, they don't care about the legacy.
Yeah.
If you're, for instance...
What's he going to do when his career's over?
If, for instance...
And a short one.
And not only that, within the minority ethnic situation, so let's just say black players, if a black player comes through, has a great career, then becomes a coach, becomes a manager, and then has influence in the corridors of power.
Yeah.
That then gives another black kid to say,
Brings them through. Yeah.
Bring them through. But if players are represented by people that literally look at it as, I'm just going to get as much money out of this player as possible, I'm not going to help them develop, and when they stop playing, it's over. And one of the best strikers in this country has ever had sat with me and told me the story about how when he was playing, he didn't realise what was going on, and then when he was finished, the agent just said, sorry, I can't do nothing for you.
Who's that? Righty.
It's not Righty.
Not Righty.
No, I'm not going to tell you, because
come on.
No, because the player told me in confidence.
But that happens a lot, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we need in football, we need quality everywhere. So Arsenal and all the clubs, they need the best possible people to make the best possible decisions.
Yeah.
But unfortunately in football, there's something called money, and people get influenced.
Corrupt.
And people get influenced. You can use that word.
No, when I say corrupt, I'm not saying direct corruption, but I'm saying money corrupts, innit?
Yeah,
money comes in
and influences.
Things, people don't make the right decisions because of money. They're looking for money for themselves, or Yeah. Instead of like going back to the Sol Campbell thing, you were looking out for the client. You're looking out for him because he's almost like a friend of yours. So you're not thinking to yourself, I can double my money by getting into Barcelona. I do get that impression with a lot of agents nowadays, or a lot of players I see. I see players that have left Arsenal. And I'm like, to me, that was just a money move, right? There's been other players that have left Arsenal that I've looked at and say, well, actually, much as I hate the fact that they've left because I love that player, I can see why he did it. It's a more ambitious move that he's made because we were a bit in decline. I mean, touching on Arsenal, I've got to say, I need to ask you this as an agent, right? I've seen so many players in recent times leave my football club for nothing. Just recently, Aubameyang. It's gone to Barcelona. We paid £50 million for him. Great player, done really well. All right, he went a bit sour at the end, but he's gone, nothing.
Yeah.
We're paying, I think even at the moment, we're paying his wages until the end of this season. He's over in Barcelona scoring goals now. Yeah. Alexis, nothing. Van Persie ran his contract down. We got next to nothing for him. He went in a January transfer. So many players at Arsenal. Aaron Ramsey, zero. How have we allowed how's a club like Arsenal allowed that to happen? It's not even just Arsenal. I'm looking at other clubs around at the moment. You mentioned Mbappe earlier. He's going to go for nothing. Now, is this a trend that players are deliberately running the contracts down because they know that when they leave now, they can negotiate their own wage? They don't have to worry about transfer fees and stuff, because the rumour was Ramsey was able to get nearly £400,000 a week from Juventus because he was able to say to him, well, you don't have to pay a transfer fee for me. So is this players deliberately running it down, or is this mismanagement by, say, Arsenal in allowing so many players to leave for free? Kolasinac went. Again, we get nothing for this guy. I know we got him for nothing, but I think, we had to shut his contract off early, and it just doesn't seem Ozil. Nothing. How's we've allowed this to happen?
The first thing to say is Arsenal is a classy club in terms of, if a player's contract is running down, they don't try and influence the player by treating the player badly.
That classy or stupid?
No, I think it's classy. No, really, because if you've got a contract, it's hypocritical for anyone, including the club, to say that player's got a contract, but because they're not doing what we want them to do, then we're going to stick him in the reserves and not play him. And there's a history of players that have been treated terribly if they're not doing what the club. So let's get that point out there. But Arsenal, a class club. The thing is that there is it's debatable how certain contracts have been negotiated over the years. So what's very important is the structure of a player's contract. And that means that there are two parties involved. Then there needs to be communication between the club, someone at the club, and the player. And someone needs to be looking at players' contracts and saying, well, this player's got 2 years left, let's have a conversation. And you can have a conversation with a player and agent and say, look, the club would like you to sign a new contract. If you don't sign a new contract, then can we talk about you leaving? And if it's said in respectful ways and dealt with in the right way, then you can do that. But the fact that a club can allow players to just stay at the club when they know the player is a depreciating asset, there's two sides to this. If a player is staying at a club, you should treat that player with respect because you've got a contract. You can't all of a sudden say, we don't care about the contract. But the other thing is the structure of the contract and the communication between parties. And you have to understand the psyche of a player and an agent. So most agents just want to be paid. So, but some clubs feel a bit of a way about giving agents money because their clients' contracts run that. But let's be frank, right? If you got a player, if you got Van Persie, I don't know, his contract's running down, he's got 2 years left. You say to the agent, if the player moves, you'll get this, the player will get that, and you can do those deals. So it's about being on it. You've got to be on the situation. You've got to be in communication with people. You shouldn't allow for lack of communication.
So has that been the case at Arsenal then?
Well,
because honestly, over the last few years, 5-6 years, the amount of players, I mean, we ain't made no money off of these players. These, valuable players, Alexis Sanchez, nothing.
Yeah,
how can that be?
But here's the thing, it isn't that you haven't earned any money, it's that the club have had to pay off players.
That's even worse.
You're absolutely right.
We're paying them to go.
Yeah.
How?
You're paying them to go. So in the case of Aubameyang, Willian, and I can't think of another case, but let's use those two cases. You got players around the age of 30, right? Aubameyang was a bit older, but I think they're both around the 30.
32, Aubameyang.
Yeah, and Willian. And then the club have paid a king's ransom for them to renew their contracts. Now, it's quite obvious to everybody that the older you get, the less residual value, the less value there's going to be at the end of that contract. So that has to be looked at. You've got to have a kind of a policy where when players hit 30, there's got to be a structure based on success. And talking about basing stuff on success, when agents go in to negotiate contracts, agents only get a percentage of the guaranteed amount a player gets. So that is not of interest to an agent then. The agent's like, I'm not going to start negotiating bonuses and all this if I'm not going to get a piece of it. So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with an agent getting a percentage of bonuses. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But then that brings everyone to the table. The club can say, we want this contract more based on games and results. So if player A wants 300 grand a week, right, we'll give him 100 grand a week. We'll give him X, Y, Z after so many games. We'll give him X, Y, Z based on the club's success. And if the player plays so many games, then the player gets another year.
That's sensible.
And that's sensible. And then that way, a player can earn even more than the 300 grand a week. 300 grand is a big number. Yeah, 300 is a big number, yeah, but I'm just using it as an example because of the two players in question. So what happens there? Whenever you're in a negotiation, there's always... Robbie's phone's ringing. It's the chief executive of Arsenal telling him, stop that interview right now. So whenever I'm doing a negotiation, it always gets a little bit fruity. But at the end of it, there's respect. Shake hands, great. When you're negotiating with big players and agents, you have to be tough with them. You have to be tough with them. You know,
but you know what, Sky? There's a thing now, right? Again, it's down to money again. Now, so with, say, the scenario that you were saying, and you're saying, right, which I like that. It's like a performance-related deal. So you get a flat of base of 100, but if you perform and you hit this target, this, it could rise up to that. And I know there's contracts like that. But then what happens if, say now, Man City come, or Chelsea come, or Newcastle, now they've got all their money, and they say, you know what? We ain't even writing that in there. We're just going to give you the flat 300. Then you've lost that player, haven't you?
What, you mean a player in his 30s? It's unlikely.
All right, maybe, all right. Even if we said a younger player then.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean? That's the problem. The problem is another club just comes in and just throws the money on the table and says, we'll give you £300,000 a week, no incentives, nothing written in. And then if it's a certain agent as well, they're just taking it, innit? They're like, well, why? You know, I don't want you. You know, they're not even saying no incentives. I've just got to. So is that the pressure that clubs like Arsenal are under? So
then the scenarios I was giving you was to do with players of the ages of Willian and Aubameyang, yeah?
Yeah. So you'd say for an older player, you'd always have those performance-related incentive sort of things put into there.
Yeah, because players of that age know that they're in the twilight of their career.
Yeah.
And they've got to fight for their extra year. Players in their 30s, they're just fighting for an extra year.
But I guess, though, if you do that, though, you're going to have to realise that you're going to lose certain... Because there are still some of those players in that age group, in that age bracket, that clubs will come and offer big amount of money to. And if I'm a player and I'm in the twilight of my years and I see that contract on the table where I don't have all them incentives written in, I'll grab that because I'll be like, I ain't got long left. I may as well make as much money as I can before it finishes. Is that
no? But there isn't. I mean, there isn't that many interested parties once you hit your 30s. You know, there's very few Cristiano Ronaldos. Going back to the younger players, Arsenal as a club can compete with anybody when it comes to buying a younger player. Earlier I said about if you get a player at the right time and they see Arsenal as a step up, then Arsenal are in a strong position to negotiate.
A bit like what they've done in the summer with players like Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, Lokonga.
Yeah, so you know they need plus big ups for that. But when a player, if certain players get too much guaranteed, it doesn't help them. But some agents don't care. But agents need to care and say that money should be used as an incentive to make a player be insensitised. And money has got to be used to get a player to think, do you know what? That's giving me an extra boost. Focusing on money is weird because you can give a man £1 and he'll turn it into -5 because they're gambling and doing rubbish, right? Or you can give another man £1 and he'll turn it into £3. So a lot of these guys don't realise that you want to give players incentives, and a player can have a guaranteed contract of £1 million a year, or they can have incentives where they can earn 1.5 million a year. So it's about how you structure contracts with young players. And I think that clubs need to get a grip of that and make players realise that it's not all about, well, actually, it's not up to the clubs. It's up to the agents to say to players, it's not necessarily about how much you earn, it's about how your contract is structured. Some players and agents just get obsessed with a number. But that number, without any incentives, it's a glass ceiling. So you've got to look to have incentives where everything is possible. One of the worst things that can happen to a young player is that they play well, do well, and then they look at their contract and they think, I need a new contract. Players would just keep signing contracts. It means one thing. It means that the last contract wasn't negotiated properly.
Interesting. Would you say Arsenal, when you're, I know you still look after players, is Arsenal still a great proposition for a player?
Arsenal is a great proposition for a player where the player feels it's a step up. I feel for the fans because the fans want Arsenal to get the best players in the world. So once a player is up, Haaland, the fans are sitting there saying, well, why aren't we in for Haaland?
Yeah, why?
Because Arsenal, at the moment, are not seen as a club performing as high as Liverpool and Man City, for instance. So Arsenal now have got to get in early. They've got to get in earlier than some of the other clubs.
Bit like what Dortmund did with Haaland, isn't it?
Yeah.
They got in early. He was performing well.
Yeah.
They got in early. They got him.
Yeah.
They got to do that.
Yeah. Dortmund, can anyone tell me why Dortmund, their strategy should be better than Arsenal?
Yeah.
Or better than any club?
But is it because of the pressure that's on a club like Arsenal to deliver now?
There's pressures. Dortmund have got a strategy of getting young players, right? But they've got the same pressure as Arsenal. Everyone's got to perform. But Arsenal as an institution is an attractive proposition to most clubs. So it's about, when you look at Southampton and you look at Leicester City in past years, you look at how many players they've got at a certain stage and then sold them for big money. And I think that the Arsenal fans, once a good player comes, Arsenal fans don't want the players to leave. So that is the pressure on Arsenal, is that you get a Van Persie, the fans don't want him to leave. You get, so it isn't that Arsenal haven't got good players in the past, it's about the strategy. What is the strategy?
To keep those players.
Yeah, so is the strategy to bring in players, try and keep them on a contract? If not, sell them at their peak and then go again? Or is it just to bring players in and to just let them get into their 30s and then have to pay them off because there's a fallout? With players' characters, you see players day in, day out. Every club has to do their research. This is why it was surprised what happened with Aubameyang. Surely people knew what his character was, what was going on with him, etc., etc. Aubameyang didn't just overnight decide that he wanted to behave in a certain way. And I don't know what went on with him necessarily. But before he signed his last contract, some people will say that was the time to say, okay then, you can leave and you sell him for money and you find the next Aubameyang. Football has
Sounds like you're saying to me, sorry to cut you here. Sounds like you're saying to me that, all right, maybe not now, but Arsenal's been a mess, the way things have been run in recent years.
What I'm trying to explain.
I didn't want to put you on the spot.
No,
because look, all these players leaving for nothing. Research not been done properly into players. Us not making any, like you said, look at Dortmund. Look at how they've done it. It's been a mess. I mean, I think what they've done in the summer, I see progress there. But in the past, come on.
Yeah, I mean, what the new regime have been able to do is to be able to create a group of good young talent. They've got good young players. But what I'm talking about is what's missing from the jigsaw, because fans are just sitting at home thinking, why can't we get Haaland? Why aren't we in the top 4? Fans are not necessarily understanding the differentials in the money, but now that I've explained it, the fans will be like, well, wow, that's cost us so much money. Not selling players at the right time, players in their 30s getting big contracts. So Arsenal have done a lot of things good. They have. You know, they're a classy club. I say to you they're a classy club because I know that in football, a lot of clubs don't behave like Arsenal. Arsenal's just got 1 or 2 pieces of a jigsaw puzzle missing for them to be a big club. Now, sorry, not for them to be a big club. Now, Arsenal are a huge club. For them to be the big club, the club, winning the Premier League and competing to the latter stages of the Champions League. And what that missing part is that at this moment in time, you can't compete with bigger clubs who will spend more money or clubs that are winning. It's just an obvious statement. So Arsenal need to be really cute in the transfer market, identify the best players just about to explode and go in and get them and bring them in.
They might have to give you a call, get you in on some sort of advisory role or something. Because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. When it comes to, because you are right, it's a mixture of things that we need to do. As I said, I was more encouraged to see what Arsenal were doing in the summer. But like this summer's going to be huge for Arsenal. So many players leaving because their contracts are up again. Lacazette's going to be gone, El Nenny's going to be gone, Eddie Nketiah, all these contracts again, more contracts run down. They're going to have to bring in a lot of players. They're going to have to be very smart this summer.
But Arsenal spend money. Let's not get it wrong. Arsenal, in terms of world football, Arsenal are a huge club and they spend money. But here's the thing. Arsenal have got to spend 150 million in such a smart way. Right? They've got to have the best possible people in recruitment. They've got to get the best possible advice. And the fans must understand that Arsenal spending 100 million on a player might not get the results they want. Arsenal finding 4 or 5 players just about to explode for your 10, 12, 13 million. Okay, so there won't be instant success where the fans will go, right, you've got out and you've been brave, but that's the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle, because every year there's 1 or 2 players out there that everybody's watching. But some clubs are a little bit like, I'm not sure. Look at Van Dijk. He's at Celtic.
Yeah.
I got up to Celtic to have a meeting, and then John Park, who was at that time head of recruitment, he said to me, this player Van Dijk is going to go right to the top. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Celtic have gone to Holland and bought this kid in for small
No, didn't
money.
they get him from... Did he go... Oh, yeah.
But
Since
to
he went
Holland.
from there to Southampton.
No, Celtic had him first.
Yeah, that's right. And then,
Celtic had him first.
Yeah.
And so John Park says, well, and me and him had a conversation about opinions. And he went, no, I'm telling you, this kid's going to be big. Next thing, he's gone to Southampton.
That's right.
And then he's gone to Liverpool for 70 odd million. And so Arsenal need to get Van Dijk when he's in Holland and bring him over for 4 or 5 million. But
that's probably what they've tried to do with Saliba, but even though they've paid a lot more money for him. And like I said, some of these players that we're looking at, like Sambi Lokonga, I think, is like that type of player where they're looking and thinking in the next few years he could be. But I guess us fans, it's where our patience needs to come in, doesn't
patience,
it?
yeah. And do you know what the frustrating thing is, and the pressure for Arsenal, is that Arsenal's a big club.
And we ain't won nothing for, we haven't been challenging. Forget even winning the league. We haven't been challenging for the league for so long. Our fans have grown a bit impatient. I think we're starting to have a bit more patience. We're seeing what Mikel Arteta's trying to do with bringing in, just as you described, some of those younger players, some of those names that are slightly under the radar.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's not...
When you ain't won something for so long,
yeah, I know,
your patience gets freed, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's not an endless pot of money. Clubs have just got a pot of money. But what you can do is that you can generate more money. So then if the transfer business and the contracts are negotiated in what I would suggest is the right way, then all of a sudden you've got a pot of money and then you've got another pot of money, right? So then players are being sold at the right time, players' contracts are being structured in the right way, then all of a sudden you're generating money to go to the transfer market and to say, okay then, for example, we're going to bring in a Haaland and then we're going to bring in 3 or 4 other players, but the fans might not know, but who have been recruited by the best possible people. Because every big club, you always need a marquee signing. Because for different reasons, but most importantly, that it can do something for the club straight away, hopefully. But fans get energised by seeing a marquee signing come in. So that's never going to change. But once clubs see that you can go get a player, just like Arsenal did. The fans, Terry came in, TT came in. For the first year, the fans were like, well, what we got here? But then they believed in what Arsenal was doing because they'd seen Arsenal do it before. So literally, if Arsenal could do that again, because Arsenal not that many players away from competing for the championship. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You know, I mean, probably 3. I'd say 3 players away, 3 top quality players away from competing.
In what positions?
I think striker, and then in the midfield. That's my opinion. Away from competing.
Right. And what type of player would you say you wanted in the midfield?
I think I really like Odegaard, by the way. I think he's one of those players that's going to be much better in the next
There's a link,
couple
man,
of years.
but he's a link.
But I think a really solid, like, defensive-minded midfielder, stroke box-to-box, and maybe another creative midfielder in there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think of the highest quality, and I think, you know.
So, what I would be doing.
Got anyone for us?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you my opinion of who Arsenal need. I mean, I'm going to AC Milan. I'm getting Kessie.
I love Kessie.
Right? Well, Kessie is out of contract in the summer.
He's a mate of Pepe as well. And he's available on a free, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out of contract in the summer. And Mangala, who plays for Stuttgart, a young player. Okay, he's going to cost money, but you know this guy is like the new Kante. So I watch football nowhere near as much as what a scout would watch, right? But Arsenal are not that far away from having a team competing competing for the title. The problem is that if you have in a situation like with Aubameyang, for instance, and it's cost you multi-millions, then that can set you back because then the financial guys are like, well, sorry, but we gave him this contract, we paid him this money, we've had to pay him off, we can't give you as much money. Whereas at the beginning of the show, I said to you about you look at you take an overview about how you are going to structure this club, and as much as the fans don't like it, players come and go, and sometimes the fans need to accept that from a business point of view, the player might have to go. But I've got massive respect for Arsenal in that even if it's going to cost them financially, they don't treat the players badly. They don't stick the players in the reserves.
I've got two final questions for you, right? First one is, you got any gems? I know you look after a load of players, right? Any gems out there? Any, you know, completely no one's talking about, that's a gem that you think is going to become a big star?
I mean,
give us one.
The Arsenal fans won't necessarily like to hear this, but Rhea Griffiths, who I spoke to you off air about, who was one of the top.
You said he was at Tottenham, this player, right?
Yeah, he was at Tottenham, and then he went to Lyon. But I mean, I watch him a lot, and for a 21-year-old, he's so aggressive. And
where's he now?
He's a Doncaster.
Doncaster, okay.
He's gone big clubs. Now he's come back to play football, and I think that he will prove in the future that he will be a top player.
Premier League?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
Because
what's his name again?
Rio Griffiths.
Rio Griffiths, right. Also, get on the rating, start checking him out. Rio Griffiths, all right, look out for him. And my final question for you is, you sat at home, having a nice little drink and thing, get a call on your phone. It's Harry Kane's representatives, or it's Harry Kane himself. He says, Sky, I remember you negotiated the Sol Campbell deal. When, would you do it again to get me over to Arsenal? What would you say to him?
Football's all about timing and where clubs are at a certain time. At the time when Sol went to Arsenal were winning. Arsenal were winning titles. In fact, in his first season, they won the double. So that can't work because Arsenal and Spurs.
Hey, hold on here, man.
It's because
Arsenal are here right now. Spurs are there.
Of the past few years, Arsenal haven't been winning the title. So that's the massive difference. But
you'd advise them against it?
Players need to have their own. Players need to be able to make a decision. And this is the thing that I've always done as an agent is give players the opportunity to make their own decisions.
I think you're saying it because you couldn't take that stress again.
No. The thing is that
you would take all that abuse again, and now you've got all the social media added on top of it. They'd be coming after you.
Players want to win, and top players want to be at whoever's winning at that time.
So did you think, actually, is that why it's so vital then for Arsenal and all these clubs that are chasing down that top four? Arsene Wenger, you say top four is like a trophy, but it shows you how vital getting into that Champions League, because that will sway a player, won't it?
Oh, massively. I mean, Champions League is the cream of football.
So when you representing players, they're saying to you, Scar, I want to play in the Champions League, man. Are they saying that more than I want to win the FA Cup? What are they saying?
Players don't get the opportunity to make a decision. And people talk about players have power. When a player's under contract to a club, a player has no power. Right? They're under contract. So, and there are very few agents out there that are creating a situation where the player has some influence. So, for instance, if a player keeps signing a contract every year, that player is never going to have a say in their own career. And some players get into a position where they can say, well, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. The Sol Campbell situation happened because he was a free agent. If he had been under contract at the club, it would have been virtually impossible for him to go to a rival. Right? So players just need to have the opportunity to think and to make a decision. And very few players outplay their clubs, right? So you'd say that if you've got a world-class player at a club that's not in the Champions League, then you'd say that player is outplaying the club. And then that player's got decisions to make. But if that player is under contract, there isn't anything they can do. So you would say at Arsenal at the moment, Arsenal have got a good bunch of players. They've got some big talents, but you wouldn't actually say that any of the players are massively outplaying Arsenal at where Arsenal are at. So the good thing about Arsenal at the moment is that they're going on a journey together. There's a group of young players that are going on a journey with Arsenal. And I believe that Arsenal will get back to consistent top fours and competing for the Premier League title. But they need another couple of pieces of the jigsaw. And it's, believe it or not, it's not to do with money. It's to do with decision making and having the best people dealing with agents, players and recruitment.
Listen, Sky, that's a great way to end it. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute privilege as a person that's sort of seen you over the years and always admired the fact that, as I said, as a black man, seeing another black agent, and I'm seeing that more black agents are coming into the game, and obviously that's because of people like you. They've seen what you've done over the years. So big up for what you've done, and then also thank you for Sol Campbell. Thank you very much. That's Sky Andrew, legend of the game. Guys, thank you very much for watching and listening to this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you on the next one.